Have you ever felt like you didn't know how to just say what you wanted to say? Stick around. We are going to talk to Rhonda Payne, also known as a girl with a pen. This is the Communicate Great podcast, and welcome. I am Tracy Poe, your host. And the Communicate Great podcast is all about helping you level up your communication, whether it's for your professional life or for your personal life. And a lot of time there's crossover. So if you learn a skill that helps you in your personal life, you're definitely going to be able to use that in your professional life. So let's get going. Rhonda, I know that you want to talk to us about how to get to the point. So first, before we get into your tips though, let our audience know who you are, who you serve, all about Rhonda Payne.
Hi, so I'm Rhonda Payne, girl with a pen. I am a writer, and what I do is I help businesses say the things they need to say that they don't have the time or the ability to say. So that could be things like articles, newsletters, case studies, blogs, all of that long form content. I'm also a bio writer. I love writing bios for people. And I write for a number of publications and am the editor of a magazine. So I live my life in a lot of what I call buckets. I also do creative writing in my spare time. And I am going to put it out there right at the start. If I look a little not put together, it's not just because of the heat of the summer, it's because I have a broken wrist. So this is challenging for a girl with a pen who uses her keyboard a lot. And I'm going to try to keep my points on point and not ramble so that we can get through this quickly and help all of you and make sure that you can do the typing you need to do, because right now I can't.
We were talking about some frustrations before we hit record, and my heart just goes out to you, Rhonda. I've been at points where I've not had the ability to do what I needed to do, and it's super frustrating. So especially again for somebody with a broken wrist who is a girl with a pen. So I am just so grateful that you are able to be on with us today and record this episode for our audience, because I know that what you're going to talk about is going to be big. And I know this because you and I have had other conversations, and actually you were a guest in my community for women, the Oh Yes I Can Women in Business, and you led a workshop on writing bios, and you also were on our Oh Yes I Can Women in Business podcast talking about bios. And I know the value that you brought in that conversation or those multiple conversations. And so I know that what you're going to be bringing today when you're talking about just get to the point, it really, really is going to be helpful. So I am looking forward to it. So I'm just going to let you go.
Fabulous. Well, thank you, Tracy. And I really appreciate that. And I have to say, when we did the podcast about bios, it was clear, it was on point. Yeah, we rambled because you and I do that. But when we did the workshop, it was fresh off of the limb breaking, and I was higher than a kite on meds. And yet I could still get my message out, which is kind of what I want to instill in everybody, is that when you know certain things and you know certain facts, even when you're high as a kite, you still know those. It's the stuff you know, it's the stuff in you. You know those facts. And so I want to help everybody get to know just a few tips. I'm not going to overwhelm you with a lot of tips. I'm just going to give you a few so that you can internalize those and use those and just know them, so that if you break a wrist or something else, you'll be able to recall them because you know them. So I guess where I want to start is, because I write for a number of publications, newspapers, magazines, various periodicals, I had to learn really quickly to get to the point. And I've always been a writer, always been told I've been a good writer, but it wasn't until I was doing vacation coverage at a local community paper. and I'd go in 2 or 3 days a week. I'd sit on the reporter desk. I was a reporter for those 2 or 3 days a week. I really had to learn how to hone that down to get to the point. So being able to put words together that sound nice and make sense is one skill. Getting to the point is another skill. And journalism really brought that out in me. And what I found was I'd start writing and I'd get into this story and I'd be talking about things and I'd be doing this winding river that I was floating down with my hand in the water. And I just wasn't getting to the point. And so what I had to learn was ask myself, just stop and say, okay, why am I in this river? What is the point about me being in the river? What's the point? So, using that river analogy, when we read fiction, which, as I mentioned, I also do creative writing. So, when we read fiction, we do something that's called burying the lead. The lead in journalistic standards is like that first paragraph. It's that first couple of sentences, first sentence, two sentences that tell you what's going on. The lead is at the start. We tell you the details, we tell you why you should care, we tell you what happened and why it matters. And then we follow it up with other facts or other details. When we write fiction, when we're reading fiction, we bury the lead. It is down at the bottom so that it's this trigger point that comes up and you go, oh, I didn't see that coming. I didn't know there was a waterfall at the end of the river. I had no idea.
Mm.
So when I'm writing for a report, I'm doing an article, I want to make sure that that lead information is at the start. I'm not trying to trick my audience. I'm not trying to hold back, because this is communication that I'm bringing out to help people get work done, to help people learn something, to help people apply knowledge. So whenever we're communicating in business, we always want that lead up front. So in this case, we want to lead with, there's a waterfall on this river. And you may not know it because you don't hear it, because you've got your radio blaring, but you need to know that there's a waterfall coming up ahead. And here's what you need to know about the waterfall: X, Y, and Z. It's 500 feet up the river. It's 10 feet down. It's a 10-foot drop. It's survivable, but you may get hurt. You may be panicked. The water is very cold. All of that stuff needs to be up at the front. So that's what I mean when I say get to the point. That's the point. There's a waterfall, damn
Mm. Right, right. Yeah. So here's what I find interesting when we're talking about get to the point, and this may tip into or tap into one of the things you're going to talk about a little bit. I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about, but years ago, I went to a writers conference. It was a weekend conference, and I was taking a course, and we had X amount of time to write a thing. And so we wrote the thing, and then the instructor said, okay, go through and cut it in half. Now, when I like to use words, I'm just saying, I like to use words, and I'll give another example in a minute. But when you use words and what you've written is your baby,
Oh.
and then somebody says, cut it in half,
Oh.
it's,
Yeah.
oh, it's like death. So anyhow, so then we cut it in half, and then the instructor had the nerve, after we worked through that and mourned the loss of our words that were so beautiful, cut it in half again. And so that was almost traumatic for me. I did it. I didn't like it at all. I could kind of see the value, really. I could kind of see the value, but I really liked my words in the very first edition.
Mm-hmm.
So it was hard for me to do. And I know that often, especially when we are creative writers, golly, that hurts.
Oh
So that is
yeah. Yep.
one of the things, as you're talking about get to the point, it reminded me, I almost relived that trauma again of having to cut my words in half and then half again. But the point was you can do it, right?
You
You
can,
can, yeah.
and it has value. And there's two
Mm.
quotes that I'll give you that go along with that. One is, "I'm sorry this is so long. I didn't have time to make it short." The other quote is, "Kill your darlings." And in
Mm.
creative writing, we are told so often to kill your darlings. There's other phrases, if you find an adverb, kill it. If you find an adjective, kill it. Um, the point being, and the same is the point in your exercise. The point being is not that you're going to do that every time. The point is knowing that you can do it and recognizing the value in doing it. So
Right.
I like adjectives. I like
Yes.
adverbs. They have their
Yeah.
place, but I'll tell you, I use 80% less of them than I did 20 years ago.
And I agree. And that is one thing that that specific exercise taught me. The first thing I did was I went through and looked for all of the ly words, right?
Absolutely.
Some
ly
ly
words.
words.
The word that,
That was another one I went through when I got rid of all of my that's.
the
So
word
those are the two places
just.
I started. Just.
Just used to be
Mhm.
a crutch for me when I was, I'm going to say, a tween. And I was doing creative writing, and I probably was a teen. I loved the word just, loved it. And I
Yeah.
recognized it. I don't know how I did at that point in time, but I did. I recognized it and I axed it. And then a few years ago, I noticed it started creeping back into my writing. Sometimes there's value to putting the word just in there, right? Like
Yeah.
sometimes there's value in it when you're saying, it felt like it was just a second. There is ear lyric movement that makes
Mm.
that phrase better by having that word in there. Okay. So again, it's not that you have to cut it out every single time, but when you have just in more than one place on a page or 2 pages or 3 pages, you're using it
Yes.
too much, right? So
Yes.
it's
Yes.
it's learning about yourself and acknowledging these things that help you get to the point and help you recognize what the point is.
Right.
Because, okay, here's another example. I remember 10, oh gosh, it was 20 years ago. I want to say 10. It was 20. I was taking the train to work back then. I worked a 9 to 5. I worked downtown, so I would take the train every day. And I'd read because I'm a writer, so I read a lot. And I got to a point where I realized I hadn't read a lot of the classics like Dickens, Hawthorne, Bronte. Hadn't read a lot of it. And I realized I'm like, okay, I've got to get a grip on some of the classics. So I made myself a deal that I would read one classic and then one whatever fiction I wanted, and then another classic, and so on and so on and so on. And I think you can even see A Tale of Two Cities back there. So I was reading A Tale of Two Cities, and I'm on the train, and I read the page, and I read the next page, and I got through half a page after, so 2.5 pages. And I sat there for a minute, and I went back, and I kind of scrolled through, scanned through, and I went, oh, he's saying she's happy. It took him 2.5 pages in a very flowery way that tells you he was absolutely paid by the word to say that she was happy. And this was one of my introductions to just get to the point. Now there are people out there who will read Dickens and who will say, oh, but it's so lovely and it's this and it's that. And you know what? I'm not going to take away from the classics. They're classics for a reason. It's good writing. It's an easy read. It's flowery. It sounds nice. Our inner ear likes it.
Mm.
But in terms of getting to the point, uh-uh. And if you
Right.
if this were writing now, where he were writing what we call genre fiction, so things like sci-fi or romance or crime thriller, where it's a specific genre and it has a specific set of things, if you
Mm-hmm.
wrote like that, you would be diced and sliced and you would never get anywhere. You would get some, well, I was going to say you'd get
Right.
some very nasty rejection letters. No, you probably just wouldn't get the rejection letters. You would just never
Right.
hear from the publisher, because going on and on and on is not part of those genres. And
Right.
that kind of, 2.5 pages to say somebody's happy, that doesn't fit anywhere in this day and age.
Right.
Centuries ago, yes. Now, no. It absolutely does not fit in your business writing when you're trying to get to the point and you're trying to help somebody to do something or know something or think
Right.
something. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So love it. Love it. Love it. Okay. 2.5 pages. That might have been something I would have tried years ago.
Whew.
Maybe not quite. Maybe not quite. But okay. What is your next one after you take your drink? What is your next tip that you have for us?
Okay. So next tip is ask yourself why it matters. So we talked about the river analogy and the fact that there's a waterfall. Okay, that's our point. We need to get that point up front and center. But why does it matter? So what am I trying to say? Well, I'm telling you that there's a waterfall. Why does it matter? Well, because you're going to get hurt, or you could get hurt, or I don't want you to have this experience. Or in all of the selfish ways of the world, you're going to show up my dinner party and you're going to tell this story about how you went over a waterfall, and you're going to override the story that I want to tell. So maybe it's for selfish reasons, whatever it is, you have a point why you need this person to know that the waterfall is there, why it matters. Okay. So if it's the dinner party analogy, you're probably not going to put that in your writing to your friend that's the invitation. But you are going to say, hey, look, there's a waterfall. It's coming up ahead. I hope you're reading your text right now. I need you to know the waterfall is coming and I don't want you to get hurt. That's why it
Mm,
matters. So instead of just diving into the writing, you really want to sit with this information and go, okay, what's the point? What am I trying to say? That's the waterfall. Why does it matter?
mm,
Well, you're going to get hurt. You could get hurt. It could be a great story that wrecks my dinner party. Whatever. You've got a reason, you know your reason, and you need to communicate that succinctly. Not how I just prattled on about it now. The way, and this is why dictation is not working so well for me right now while I'm writing, because it's really easy to talk stuff, right?
mm,
But we come back to what you just talked about, Tracy. Take that stuff and look at it and cut it back and get down to that nitty gritty. What is the point? So,
mhm,
okay, I'm going to fly into third point number here. So my third tip, three. In journalism, we have a thing that's called the reverse pyramid. Okay, so take your pyramid and turn it upside down. Okay, so wider part at the bottom, narrower part at, or wider part at the top, narrower part at the bottom is an inverted
right.
or reverse pyramid. Okay, so the wide part is the who, what, where, when, why, and how. It's the big stuff. It's there's gonna be a waterfall in 500 feet. I don't want you to get hurt. You're supposed to be at my dinner party tonight. Okay? That's your big stuff. The next stuff, as we go down, lower and lower, descends in importance.
Mm,
Okay? So the reason that existed back in the good old days of journalism was when they were doing paste ups, and I won't get into, I don't even know how newspapers used to get made because it's a ridiculous process. Like, it was crazy. But the point is that an editor could just cut off like the last paragraph and not worry about it.
okay.
Yeah, it added to the story, but it wasn't the key stuff. Sometimes our
Okay.
darlings are in that last paragraph. In this day and age, we seldom have something in there that can be lost without losing something.
Right.
But we have to be able to identify, like you said, those things that can be lost as we go through the pyramid.
Mm.
It doesn't always mean that what's at the bottom of the pyramid nowadays can be cut, because it might be contact info. It might be the website, right? We often
Mm.
end on those things. So maybe it's a paragraph somewhere in the middle that we can dice out. But the point being, we've got to know what is essential and what isn't. What's the next level of essential? What's the next level and the next level?
Mm.
So
Mm.
the temperature of the water probably isn't that important in terms of the length of the drop, the fact that there's rocks. Might not even be my dinner party that's that important. That may be important
Right.
to me, but is it important to you, the reader?
Mm.
The fact that you're on a floaty that I gave you that I know has a leak in it, that could be really important, right? That might be
Mhm.
higher up the list. That might be me saying, look, I've told you there's a waterfall. What I haven't told you is your floaty has a leak in it. What I also haven't told you is that when you're about 300 feet away from the waterfall, there's a shallow spot that if you put your feet down, you can drag and you can get yourself out. Okay. So you're going to think about the important details that come. First important thing is the waterfall, always going to be the
Right.
waterfall. But the second most important thing might be, hey, there's a way for you to avoid this.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I like it. I like it. That's good. All right.
I had no idea we were going to do a waterfall analogy, by the way. That just happened.
You just came up
I
with it.
think it's
That's
because
what
it's
happens
hot.
with creative. So,
I'm thinking about floating down a river. So, it's because it's
yeah.
hot.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Okay. So you said you were going to give us a few tips. Are those the three? Do you have a fourth one, or is
I'm
that
going
it?
to give you a bonus.
Oh, give
So,
us a bonus. Okay. So,
being clear in your communication really matters. And you may think, why? Why does that matter? They're going to read my stuff. The reality is they're not going to read your stuff. And this hurts. It hurts when we're the writer. We want to believe that everybody reads our stuff. And
right.
the reality is they just don't. They skim headlines, they look at subheads, they might read the lead, and then they just don't read it. If you are clear, you will be valued as a communicator. If your emails are free of fluff and they get to the point, people will value that. You will be valued as a communicator. Okay,
Right.
so to follow that up, I'm going to add one bonus tip. So here we get another one. Feel free to use AI to help you with your tone.
Mm.
If you are saying something and you know it's coming out too fluffy, or you've buried the lead and you're really not sure how to word it, let's say you've started off your email or your blog post. Blog post, let's take that out because blog posts fall into more of the creative writing category. Let's say it's an email or an article,
Okay.
and you've started your story down the river talking about the fact that the oars are made out of plastic and you can't figure out how to get to your point. Go ahead and find an AI tool and run it through it. I personally like Claude. It's one of my favorites. Chat GPT is also very good. Take your written portion, copy and paste it in there, and say, help me make this more accurate, or
Mm.
help me make this more professional, or help me get this to the point.
Mm.
The third one is my preference. So that's what I suggest you do. Now, anytime we use AI, don't trust it carte blanche. Always read it, always check it. Make sure that
Yes.
it still says what you want to say, because AI hallucinates. So make sure you've got that down. And once you do, feel free to send it, because you're going to be
Yeah.
talking about the waterfall.
Yes. And I can tell you, thank you for giving the tip of double check what AI says. I was using it, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and it had something
The
completely wrong about
hallucinations are
what I
rampant.
said. And I
Yeah.
said, this is not what's happening at all.
Yeah.
This is what's happening. It was for one of my summits, one of the Oh Yes I Can Women in Business summits. It had something completely wrong about what type of summit it was, and I was like, that's not
Well, I
like
think I
that.
told you when we did the bio recording, when we were talking about bios, I just for fun, I had AI write a bio about me, and it was
Yeah.
dead wrong. It came
Yeah.
back saying I was a travel writer, and I have literally never,
Yeah.
ever done any travel writing. So
Right.
there are what they call hallucinations in AI, and when we use it, we need to be aware of that.
Yeah.
We need to be aware of what we put into it, and we need to be aware of
Yes.
what comes out of it,
Yes. Yep.
but
That
still
is
use it.
true. Right. Right. And no, it is very, very helpful. I
Yes.
often use it just for generating ideas. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, like, here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I've got. What ideas do you have?
I
So
use it
that's a good one.
for a grammar check. And again, it isn't always right. Lots of times it comes back to me with a grammar check, and I look at it and go, no, AI, that's not
Right.
right. Which,
Right.
is why I help people use AI better, so that even if they aren't writers, they can find those things and go, okay, no, this isn't right.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
using a
Yeah.
tool and knowing how to use it best for you. And
Right.
darn it, it can make your writing better.
It can.
Yeah.
It really can. I know a number of people who use Grammarly.
Oh,
And I've never
yeah.
used Grammarly, but they love it. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you think that's a good one or
I
a
do
or
like
not.
Grammarly, and I fight with it often as well.
Okay.
Often it will return things that it tells me to change, and I look at it and say, no, you're not
You're wrong.
understanding what I'm trying to say. And again, that's the
Right.
privilege of a writer, knowing, sorry, Grammarly, you're wrong.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. I love it. You not only gave us three tips and a bonus and a bonus, you also kind of gave us another. Wait, was your fifth bonus using AI
Yeah,
or
yeah,
was it
I guess that was the fifth point.
maybe? And then you've
Bonus
got
number
the
two.
use it, but check it. So that's
Oh, yeah, maybe
another
there's
tip.
another bonus. Look at this. We're covering tips upon tips.
That's right. That's right. Okay. All right. Well, I love everything you gave, and it was kind of doing this to me. I It's funny because I had a boss one time, and he would ask me and this was, like forever ago. I was in my early 20s. So he would ask me a question, but I had a really hard time answering point blank what he wanted to know. I would circumvent, I would go over here, I would go over there, and he would stop me and he would say, just answer my question. And sometimes it was hard because I guess I had that creative writer side of me that wanted to go into all of the senses and let's describe it in fluff. And,
Well,
so
and
anyhow,
wanting to explain your backstory, right? There's so much
right.
validity to that, but sometimes there's
Yeah,
just not time or the place for that.
right,
This, how many times have I been asked since this happened, how'd you break your wrist?
right.
Now, I could launch into the great big story, but the simple answer is I was doing something stupid. I could cut that out as well and just say I was standing on a chair and I fell off.
Right.
I
Yeah.
can get into the backstory. I can tell you that it was doing something stupid. I could tell you what I was doing while I was standing on the chair. I could tell you that I'd done it 1,000 times before and never fell off. But the point is, I was standing on a chair and I fell off.
Yeah. 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 And I know your story. You've shared your story with
Yeah.
me. And I kind of made a face when you said you've done it 1,000 times and never fallen off. But the truth is, I've done that close to that stupid thing before as well.
Everybody
So,
has.
and when somebody else does it, I'm like, oh no, be careful. But then I think, I've got it. I can do that.
I know.
So,
I know.
anyhow, okay. All right. Well, our audience may be being left with a cliffhanger. Or cliffhanger, you can
A
contact
chair hanger,
Rhonda.
a waterfall.
I don't know what it is. Cliffhanger. You can contact Rhonda and ask her the story.
You absolutely
And
can.
she will be very succinct in the way she answers you.
Or
And she
not.
will get to the, or not. And she will get to the point or not. So, okay. All right, Ron, is there anything else that you want to share with the audience before we close out?
I think we're good.
Okay.
Lots of tips there.
Rhonda, there are lots of tips. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward, just so you know, Rhonda's coming on in the future with another round of tips in a different area. So you definitely want to Stick around, and if you have not hit subscribe, hit notifications, share, comment, all of the things with the Communicate Great podcast. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.